Um, a couple of these items are going to go by real quick. New staking pools that got back to us. I reached out to quite a few. My issue is that Limboshi right now controls that document to see if they're being updated. I don't think the Excel sheets we've had, uh, like where we did all the color scheming, for example, update. And so, Superfizz, would you mind reaching out to Limboshi just to either get access to that or etc.? You see what I'm
Sure,
saying?
I will. Yeah, I did once, and I'll ping him again. I'm running the document that I shared, so I control that one, and that's where I did a lot of the color coding. But in terms of the question and answer form, he does control
Yeah.
that, and I will continue to.
Because that's
You
the
know,
key. I know I've been reaching out to people, and I've had people say, "Oh, I answered," but that's the way that we can see those answers.
okay.
And if we all good on that item, perfect. Philip, do you want to update everyone on the further due diligence?
Sure. So, James, Madison, and me, we had a meeting, I don't know, a few days ago. And we talked about how we can basically bring other people in order to move this deeper due diligence process forward. And so I don't know whether that was consensus within our small group, but I had the idea that this could be a 4-step process in total, such as that we have volunteers that gather general information, and that could be, for example, we could ask the people from the ETH Staker educator group, for example. Then we ask the existing user base of the pools to provide some feedback, and also to, for example, we could use the Ether for putting up claims about the pool, and then they can provide their feedback there. Third step is a closer look at the architecture, and that could be by a subcommittee from this initiative. And the fourth step would be putting all together in a final report. Yeah. And so first step was to take the document I made a few weeks ago, which outlined the process, and tag everything that could be so that we can split up all the different kind of parts into the different steps. And Madison tagged all the kind of, I mean, I can share my screen, maybe. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So that was the original document that I made a few weeks ago, which was basically the all the different kind of information we need to gather and look at for the deeper due diligence I came up with. And so Madison went ahead and tagged all the different kind of pieces that we should look at individually. And I took that and tried to make some spreadsheet out of it. So I made a spreadsheet that looks like this, which is a general pool information spreadsheet, and we can create one for each of the pools. And then we can ask volunteers to put on the information about the pool. And first section is about general information about the business itself, staking pool name, domain, legal name, and so on. Second section is about the team members, their past experience, and also we should always try to include a reference, so that at the end of the final report we can back that up with something I don't know, a document or wherever we got the information from.
I just want to say that's a really awesome thing to be doing, Phil, because if we ever do decentralize this and have more community input, the key thing we're going to always have is a fact stated and something that attempts to be a verifiable source. So really glad you're doing that.
Yeah. And yeah, as the last section, general information about the staking pool itself, which then leads to a second spreadsheet, which is about the architecture, where we can pick up some of the information from the first spreadsheet, like the general information about architecture and the pool, a few more, and then basically looking at the different kind of components of the architecture, looking whether there are some kind of flaws, obvious flaws in there. I would say we shouldn't try to make it a security audit, because I think that's not the scope of the due diligence process, to provide some free security audits. But we should aim for finding obvious flaws or some red flags. All right. Yeah, and so it covers all the different kind of aspects. General information is taking in the information from the other spreadsheet mostly. Second section is software. What kind of beacon node implementation are they running? What kind of validator client are they running? Do they have failover systems? Do they use custom solutions, slashing protection? What are they using a custom solution for that? Are they using only the client? Are they just using the one that is provided within the implementation by the teams? Yeah. Are they using smart contracts? How's the key generation process? How's the deposit flow? Maybe even at a later stage, how's the withdrawal flow? Yeah. And then the questions all around their operation, where the server's located. Have they own servers? Do they use cloud servers? Have they internal monitoring tools? How's their communication? How's their migration or update procedure? Are there particular protocols for failure cases? How do they acted in the past? Are there any kind of notable incidents? Do they have testing procedures? How do they look like? Do they have a running testnet where you can, as a user, try the software first and then stay with them? And this is not a complete list. This is just what I put up there right now. Yeah. And so what still need to be done is, I started it here first. Have some guiding questions for each of those points. So so that if we can hand this over to someone that's new, that they know, okay, this section or this point is about these different kind of questions. And at this column, we can put up some kind of interim evaluation. I think we need also to come up with a scoring that is, yeah, maybe even another column which, I don't know, explains the evaluation itself. But yeah, I guess that's the one aspect. And then there was the idea to ask the existing user base about their feedback, and I just quickly put up a Google spreadsheet, a Google form. We can also just use the Ether for this, but I was thinking about to gather some more additional information about the user or the the existing user so that we know more about their background. And so this is just how long have they been using the staking pool? Where did they get to know the staking pool? Yeah, so some I can quickly go over it, but I can also put the link to this. I already put it in the Discord. But I can quickly go over it. So this is basically what was their engagement so far, what they generally liked about the pool, what they didn't like. Oh, I need to put. And then they asked whether they have used it on testnet. Let's say I used it. They asked about their experience on testnet. If they answer yes, if they experience some major incidents, downtimes, then they will be asked about this one. And then some information about the incidents or and then basically the same for the mainnet. I skipped that, but basically the same questions. Then some feedback on the pool's communication. Yeah, and then just some background about themselves and how do we can reach out to them. And at the end, we can share a link to the Ether where we can then have them put up or provide some feedback about some claims about this staking pool in question. And lastly, we can ask them to give their ETH address for a POAP, for example. So that's one way how we can reward them or incentivize them to take part in this. Yeah. So that was basically what was my idea, how to gather some information and crowdsource all this effort to have a further due diligence, not only looking at the answers by the pools, but rather trying to go the other way and try to figure out whether everything is fine with them.
Yep. So let's all recognize that Phil has done an insane amount of work these past couple weeks on this, and we really appreciate this further due diligence aspect and how seriously you're taking it. To summarize, we're gonna have the community component of feedback that'll come from the survey, that'll come from some debates on the Ether. What we'd really appreciate, there's a couple avenues we can go with this. The survey, for example, let's talk about distribution. We can actually ask the staking, the validator pools to distribute that survey to their users. I actually think that's useful information for them to know. So I think, we'll get that information. We'll get the access to their distribution channel, and we both get those answers. I think that's valuable for both parties. That's one way. Superfizz, obviously, if you wanted to post it within the ETH Staker community, Michael and Superfizz, posting, the claims from the Ether, posting the survey to try to drive people to those particular topics or to provide that sort of information. That would be incredibly helpful as well. The third tenet that wasn't really covered is it's going to be very imperative that we recruit more people to help specifically to help the further due diligence team essentially really, once all the answers are provided, to dig in to verify those answers. It's not going to be an easy task, and it's going to be time consuming. And we don't want any of our members to burn out, especially since they're some of the the best contributing members on this committee right now. So the more we can incentivize people to join the committee to help on that further due diligence side. So that's once all the information's been submitted, really going through and verifying all the claims. That's not exactly something that, especially on the objective claims that are more technical, it's not something that the community can be easily roped into doing. Like subjective claims of, do you like this staking pool? What do you think about it? Like those things are pretty easy to get community feedback on. But, asking about questions about the setup, etc., can be a little bit too detailed for most users. And so it's going to be very important that we keep very open minds and be very active in trying to recruit people to help us, to Phil and the rest of the further due diligence committee on this action. Does that all make sense? And then once again, Michael and Superfizz and Yorick and Kirk, if you guys have members that you think would be very technically minded to kind of help on that, there's various incentives. So like we could have a POAP for this very technical kind of due diligence role. We could, I'd be happy to give them a little bit as compensation if that's necessary. Nothing too big, but in the like hundreds of dollars for their continued work. Like anything like that. And I know it's going to be very difficult because it's obviously not competitive salary for what they're doing or competitive compensation, but really presenting it as, this is a really good community service. Obviously, your name will be tied to it. You're doing a really great thing for the Ethereum community, ensuring security, ensuring that people are notified and understand what's going on with these validators will be very, very imperative. Trying to frame it like that in order to convince them, we are going to need more resources there. Yeah, Superfizz?
So I love the big idea of inviting the community to do a lot of this work. I love this decentralized aspect. I think POAPs have historically been a fantastic motivator for the community. And I really think we can capitalize on that and maybe even link some tangible rewards to POAPs. The only thing that I would steer away from is offering money for direct work. Because what ends up happening, at least from the e-staker perspective, is if we offer someone, someone spends 30 hours of work on something and they've done incredible work, and then we give them.
Superfizz, I think froze.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I waited for it. And I've actually bought a new router, so hopefully we'll be okay. But. Giving them some, a monetary reward that feels like pay for 30 hours of work ends up often having a counter result. But
agreed.
The POAPs, because they are invaluable, seem to be a good motivation, and I feel like we can expand on that. We can also do some video promotions where we have community calls to just get the word out there. So I'm seeing a lot of options on the table. I really love this brainstorming.
Yeah, 100% agreed. You don't want to be at a point where somebody looks at the money and goes, I just made 10 cents an hour or $1 an hour or whatever it was, right? That's not what it's about.
Agreed.
Now certainly if we run across someone who a specific person who money is their currency and they it's right, then I'm not opposed to it. I just as a blanket, I think we should just leave it off the table for now.
I 100% agree. I was just throwing out all the incentive mechanisms that I could imagine to try to get people involved. Yes, Kirk?
Well, let me put one out there. It's not in lieu of those, but it's just in addition to. We've been amazed over the 20 years of Wikipedia, the way it works. I mean, we explicitly don't allow, obviously people can cheat. But in general, the conflict of interest rules, the rules about no paid editing, et cetera, work pretty well. And it's a remarkable number of people who just altruistically do the job. And so don't, to use a former term, a misstatement of the former George Bush president, I think he used to say, don't misunderestimate. Anyway, don't misunderestimate the value that literally altruism and a pseudonym can be. I would probably, except for the work I've done in the last 15 years, I've clearly put far more work in Wikipedia than anything else, thousands of hours a year. I'm sure 1,000 plus a year. And I'm under a pseudonym. Nobody knows who I am, and it's just the way I like it. You know? And yet it's probably one of the more important things I've done in the last 15 years. So just don't, as I said, don't misunderestimate the value of that, to use a George Bushism.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the idea of really talking about how this really is a community service for the Ethereum community. I fundamentally do believe that. And I think people will recognize that too, as they critically think, you know, oh, wow, someone really does need to go through and look at these different staking pools in order to figure out, you know, what's actually going on. I 100% agree. I think that is the right message. Anyone have, so I think we covered, so for this, just to recap, we're going to need, you know, let's all keep a very open mind for experts who want to join Superfizz. I saw that you have a couple of individuals that would like to participate on the technical front. That's great. What I would suggest is Superfizz and Philip, that you guys connect on Discord or just like coordinate about that, etc. And I'm happy to include them in these meetings in the future. The other thing is I'll work on like getting some claims up on the Ether, etc. The third one is distributing the survey, which I'm going to go through every one that I ask for. Hey, can you update us? Can you give us those answers? I'm going to say also, we created the survey. Would happy to share you with the answers with, you know, as your users answer this, we'll share you the answers so that you have this information as well, to try to pair those two things together, to incentivize them to also submit the answers as well as send out the survey. Additionally, Superfizz, I hope that you and Michael can distribute that survey to the community as Philip fills in the different names for the different staking pools on that survey. Am I missing anything? I think that was the summary from a high level. Perfect. I assume we're good there. Okay. So Michael, I saw your message, but you know, putting evaluations that we've done on the website update, it seems like obviously this week was pretty hectic on your end. So not much progress there. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I will have
Perfect.
those up early next week, though, for sure.
Yeah, and you know, we're all guilty too, because I've only seen 2 videos from people submitting. Have you only seen, that's to my knowledge correct, right? Only 2 videos have been submitted.
I believe so.
So
yeah.
we're all guilty here. We got to help Michael out. We got to make those videos. And if you look at my video, it's terrible. It's awful. So I promise you, it's not going to be worse than the very, very low standard I set in my video. And so you know, if that's the impediment here, please don't worry about that and make that 15-20 second video. Michael's posted the questions you need to answer multiple times. A couple people have submitted, and please do not forget to do that, so it'll ease the process of uploading those videos online for Michael. Awesome. Jake from Stake Pool is looking to join. I'm going to hand it over to Superfizz at this point.
Yeah, hey, so that's JK from Stake.fish. He is, they're a pool operator. They, my best understanding of their pool operation is they stake full nodes. So you send them 32 Ether. They take a 0.1 Ether fee and stake, I think, for a year. I'm not here to describe his pool model, but he has been a positive contributor on the Reddits. He's been a positive contributor on ETHStaker, and he and I have had some discussions about pool transparency and maintaining high standards. And so I have this little dichotomy. I don't know if it's a dichotomy. Maybe it's a conflicting interest between speaking with someone who seems to be very interested in getting staking right for the community, and then also being the operator of a large pool. So the thing that I'm bringing is we're looking for people who can make these kind of assessments, and we recognize that many of these people have a conflict of interest. So do we want to open up the doors and invite JK to participate with us. He has expressed an interest, and or is that a bridge too far? I guess does it put us at risk of being labeled a shill for a specific company, or should we maybe wait until we've been able to invite representatives from several pools? I do not know the answer, but I do think it's worthy of a discussion.
Yep. Colin?
Yeah, hey everyone. I have some thoughts on this. I have bad service, so let me know if you can't hear me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So just on Steakfish and JK in general, one, I think I've been collaborating with Steakfish on a few different networks for probably almost about for 2 years now. I've kind of watched and seen them come up and watch the way that they approach the industry. They put out good content. They build open source tooling, not just for themselves. You know, for example, they built a bulk deposit tool for ETH2 that they open sourced. So they've done a lot of great stuff for the ETH2 community. They've also taken, you know, the ETH2 calculator that I built and made a graphical, you know, representation of it on their website to help people better understand the economics. They've done great videos for ETH2, and obviously, I don't know if you guys know the history.
I think we just lost you, Colin.
So they've been involved with Ethereum for a really long time, and they've done a great job with ETH2 and the way that they approach other networks. You know, I am supportive of. I will agree though with Superfizz that if we do let in people from staking providers, you know, who are staking providers, I think we should bring them in a cohort, if you will, you know, bring in 3 or 4 at the same time. One of the proposals that I was going to make is Felix, who works for a validator, of course, one who is part of Lido, and then may potentially have their own individual set up for, you know, chunks of 32 ETH. He is someone who would most definitely be able to add value to this discussion as well on the technical front, but also just on the front of, you know, what is going on. I think it's valuable to have people who are operating in pools be a I do think it's smart to kind of bring them in chunks, right? So maybe, you know, we think about 3 or 4 different pools who, one, come to us with interest, or 2, we go to them with interest and say like, hey, look, we think you'd be a, you know, a good like part of this community to bring in and help iron out this process. So just to highlight, JK is a great dude. Been working with him for like a while. Steakfish is a great company. They're dedicated to ETH2. They put out open source tooling instead of being selfish with it, which I think is, you know, an amazing prereq for it. And if we decide to bring operators in, I don't think it's a bad thing, you know, but we should maybe bring them all in, you know, at the same time, if you will. At the end of the day, like, you know, distributed networks are meant for each other to police each other, if you will, you know. That's kind of the design of ETH2, with people being able to earn a reward for whistleblowing. I think that this is a very similar construct on like the human level. So you know, if we, you know, were to put it to a vote or whatever, I would definitely vote that bringing in pool operators or validators as a service in some capacity would be really healthy for us, especially the ones that have done and built open source tools, you know, for ETH2 to become a reality.
Yeah, so I 100% agree with what Colin. Frankly, more technical resources, more people who can actually go through and participate in that further due diligence process to help Phil. And I think the people coming from these staking pools will be excellent people to do that. I totally agree that ideally we get, you know, we get them in batches. I also think that if 1 or 2 joins or 3 or 4 joins, I think the others will want to join as well, because they're going to see, holy cows, you know, our competitors are on this rating agency, or, you know, it's not a rating agency, but you get what I'm saying. We will also want to be a part of that to make sure that our voices are also heard, which then gives more resources to fill. So I think that is I think it's a very good move. So I'm all for, and if anyone disagrees, you know, we're all for Colin, Superfizz saying yes, please come join us at this meeting, and then I'll add them to this meeting, and then linking them with Phil to participate in the further due diligence process. Yes, Kirk.
I didn't hear anybody else say something, so I'll do it. But, sorry, I got a noise on elsewhere. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All I was going to say is that I think the idea of batching is a very good one. I hadn't thought of it, but I agree completely with Colin, and I hope somebody else will say something. But the idea of if we're going to bring one in, I see Superfizz's concern about what that implies. But if you bring a batch in, and especially if you articulate a guiding principle, a fundamental principle, and I liked the way Colin said it, we're in a kind of community where the nature of ETH2 is we stake one another. Or we help report the bad actors of one another. That's the nature of the game. And that seems to be a rather interesting way to just say it. The people making, contribution to the community in a positive way are also doing it with their eyes on the community and saying, there's some questions over here. And I'm going to take the hit of flagging that. So I liked it. So I think we got to do the principle and articulate the principle and bring them in batches. Sorry for all the words to get a small concept out, but Colin was right on.
Superfizz.
If we're going to go with a batch concept, let's not let it become an eternal delay, because these kinds of things, this could end up being a year. Like we're trying to find 3 and we don't have 3. Let's set a time limit on it, perhaps 2 weeks from this call. And within that time, we solicit and we listen. So I hope that there are other operators who are observing this and following what we're doing. And so let's open up the invitation to them. And let's also reach out to the providers that, we think would be a good complement. So let's do the batching, but let's set a deadline on it so that it doesn't go out. We could potentially end up, going because we're waiting for a cohort. So let's maybe the hybrid approach might be a good idea.
2 weeks. Does that sound good to everyone? Get a batch, first batch.
I think that's good. I mean, I know that the guys from Course One are interested. Steakfish is interested. Another technical individual who actually works with me at Activate. Where there is a validator, product inside of Consensus, but we are not that. We are a marketplace for other service providers. He actually built the ETH2 Launchpad. He's interested. He's very technical in nature, and is actually managing and updating the Launchpad on a daily basis. So we have 3 in that category, and I know that the Stake.us team would be interested as well. And staking facilities. So there's 3 to 5 already. I think by the end of next week, Superfizz, let's just chat about it on Discord. I can give you my short list of people that I know have kind of shown interest, and then you can give me your short list as well. We can put a list together for the team and kind of show everyone, and then I can go at those that I know are interested, and I think we can get it done in a week. And I think 3 between 3 and 5 is probably the best way to start. There's already 3 that are kind of already chomping at the bit that want to get involved, and I think there are 2 others that would be very happy to join as well.
Yeah, 1 week would be even better, because then we can get them in the process and then help them fill as well at a faster rate. Awesome. Any other questions, comments, concerns on this recruiting aspect? If not, then new time for meeting is the next question. Normal time doesn't no longer works for me, and I also noticed that Yorick it doesn't typically work for as well. And so what I'd suggest is we find an alternative time. How do people feel about this time?
Yes.
I would say there is a bias, because those who can't attend this meeting might
Aren't here.
as well not attend the next meeting.
It's a great point. It's a great point. Do you want us to post about it? Do you want us to do it for now, this time, and then we'll ask others, if this time doesn't work, why doesn't it work? And what are really, I don't even need to know why. What are some alternative times? We can go through that exercise again.
I mean, there are some of us, who are GMT +1, GMT +2. I mean, for me personally, over the next few months, I will be GMT +2. Phil, I think you're in Germany, I believe, or somewhere in Europe as well. It is a Friday evening, and this is between 8 and 9 p.m. So I would say that, for Friday evenings, as this group gets more diversified, for example, Felix, if he joins, he's in Berlin. JK, he lives in Seoul. So, the time zones as we open it up to the validators of the participants is going to start getting a bit wild. So, I think making a decision on this today is tough, but having it on a Friday at this time for those of us who are not in the US, it is a Friday evening at this point. And we will have more European and Asian representatives joining the group in the near future.
All right. So maybe we move this back to ensure that it's not on a Friday evening. Maybe we do, I think, how about 11 a.m.? Well, it's 11 a.m. Mountain Time, so that'd be 1 p.m. Eastern on Thursday instead. So just move it one day back. What do you think about that, Colin? Is that still too late? Do you want me to move it further earlier? Earlier it becomes difficult, at least on my end.
Yeah. I mean, I think this time for at least me personal, and I'm super flexible. I'm when in my time zone, I'm mainly working on U.S. hours anyways. So I am working through the evenings until midnight every night. But just I would say this late on a Friday for European participants, it is getting a bit late. So whether it's a Wednesday or a Thursday, I would, raise my hand and vote for this time is cool, but maybe not on a Friday.
Perfect. Then, I'll move the meeting to this time on Thursday next week. We'll see how that goes. Anyone have other questions, comments on the scheduling issue?
I don't want to belabor the point, and I don't want to complicate anything. I wonder if Wednesdays worked, or if there was a reason that Wednesdays did not work.
I can do Wednesday as long as it's this time, which is obviously later than our normal time. Or it's I think it's a couple hours later than when we normally do it.
And I think we probably also need to go, once we onboard other representatives, just do an open survey to find out available hours. But right now we're just trying to get through a little while.
Agreed. I'm gonna move this to Wednesday then. Same time as we're having it now, but Wednesday. Is that good for everyone?
That's good.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Other items that people want to bring up weren't covered?
Do we have any update on the pool that was slashed but said they were not slashed?
That would be, if anyone knows about it, I think Superfizz would know about that.
I don't know enough to comment authoritatively. I only know rumors. I don't know information, if that's fair, and I'm not comfortable sharing that as if it was valid information.
All right, so no update there. York?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you were trying to say something. I'm sorry, because you were unmuted. My bad. That was my bad. Didn't mean to put you on spot right there. All right. Unless there's any other items, I'd say we adjourn for now.
Just one more comment. I also posted it on Discord. I discovered an issue in the block staking deposit flow, and I disclosed them to them, so they are aware of them. Their response was, rather quickly. I don't know whether they have fixed it so far. I need to follow up with them, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's quite clear that Phil gets MVP for the past 2 weeks. For sure. For sure. Awesome. So thanks for doing that, Phil. I think that is you're embodying what the committee's really all about. I really do believe that. Any other comments, questions, anything else before we adjourn? Terrific. So I'll see you guys next week in the Discord. Thank you.
Cheers, everyone. Have a good weekend.